all ready to celebrate the XFL tonight or what?
What is up, Texas?
You guys are looking great. It's been an absolute amazing experience to build a league of purpose and passion, a dynamic league to get closer to the fans.
Our number one motto, our number one goal and ambition is we always think audience first, people first, fan first. You watch football games, you're going to experience the XFL.
Thank you for joining us. We look forward to delivering and having a great season.
What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Weekend Review. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, your spring football media guru, we like to say. On this week's show, XFL seeking investors. Guess what? We have a freshly printed, published button of a Mike Mitchell update when it comes to the XFL seeking investors. Quarterback Cardale Jones and other XFL 2.0 players could return in 2023. We'll get into that, plus the question of the week, which is who do you want to see from the 2.0 era return to the XFL in 2023, and so much more. But before we get started, make sure you like this stream. Let's get it up to 60, please. 60 likes on YouTube, and subscribe that channel, because if you like football, then you'll like the XFL Weekend Review, because we bring it all to you, everything about the XFL. Super excited. So if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record an MP3 or video on your phone, and we'll play it on next week's show. It's simple. Or go old school with your rotary phone. Leave a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. We have those out there. Also, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all that other stuff. I do want to say something happened with the audio. MP3s did not go out. I didn't even notice it until I looked this afternoon. I put in a support ticket. It says that all the audio went out, but apparently it didn't. So if you're like, what happened to last week's show? If you're not on YouTube, it's on YouTube. But if you didn't get the MP3, I put in a ticket because it said it was published, and for some reason it doesn't show up on my feed, and there's no stats. So I don't know what happened with that. But hopefully we'll get both of those episodes out there for you. Watch XFL Weekend Review live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. As always, in the timeline, November 2022 XFL Draft. January 9th, 2023 is the XFL training camp begins. February 18th, 2023, the XFL season. I should put, I believe it's May 6th would be the XFL championship game, if I'm not mistaken. 193 days from XFL kickoff. That's right. We are actually less than 200 days away, and some crazy news this week. But before we get into all that stuff, if you want to play, you know what's coming. Did you get a chance to watch the, I wanted to say USFL, the NFL game this past week? You got the Jacksonville Jaguars, me and my wife's second team. So you know how this country is so divided. Either you're an R or a D, and they don't like each other and whatever. So my wife is a Steelers fan. I'm a Ravens fan. And then our co-team that we like together is the Jacksonville Jaguars. See, people, just because you have different philosophies on stuff doesn't mean you can't be friends. Like, my goal is to bring the world together instead of separating apart. Remember, because sports, especially sports, is supposed to be fun. That's kind of the bottom line there. But we have an NFL Fantasy Football League, so if you want to join that, message me, podcast@XFL News Hub. I'll send you the link. We got a couple more spots left. Also, especially, it's all over the site now, join our Discord. If you want to be part of the Discord, there's in-depth conversations going on in our Discord channel, so if you want to be kind of part of the XFL community, we'll get into the Huddle in a little bit. If you want to be part of that, our community, definitely join the Discord. For links, it's in the show notes. Just go to xflnewshub.com/XFL-podcast. Get the latest show notes. The links are all in there for that as well. Question of the week, who do you want to see back from the XFL 2.0 era? We got your reaction to all of that as well. A lot of crazy, interesting news happened here. We're going to break it all down. I have read Mike Mitchell's article, but I didn't go through it in depth. I wanted to do it live on the show and just kind of get your reaction here. So we have the investor stuff. We got some other XFL things going on, some announcements. Busy week. Oh, yeah. So anyway, with the Jacksonville one, and the Jaguars had Kyle Slaughter, who played for the New Orleans Breakers. If you want all the USFL news, head over to usflnewshub.com and subscribe to that channel. I'll be cranking up that podcast probably in the next month or two, probably by October. It probably won't be live just because I cannot time it with all the stuff going on. But, I mean, you got to see him play. Now, he played in the USFL, and it was great to see him out there. He threw a touchdown pass. We're going to get guys that have played in the USFL. We're going to go talk about some guys. There's guys that didn't make it in the, that played in the USFL but could be playing in the XFL. So anyway, but the USFL has almost 40 players at this recording that played that have got NFL contracts, which is fantastic. So it's so much fun to watch not only the preseason game, but you could see those guys, the USFL guys, playing in preseason. So preseason has a whole different meaning for us here at XFL News Hub, because also there's a lot of guys that are going to get cut that are going to be on the street, so to speak, and could be with USFL or even, of course, XFL rosters as well. And plus, we get to see guys from the 2.0 era, guys like Donald Parham. I keep hearing his name come up in fantasy football circles as a guy that you should maybe even draft in your league. How crazy is that? We got PJ Walker still out there. We saw Cam Phillips in the CFL just catch a touchdown pass for the Toronto Argonauts over the weekend. So, I mean, this is a great opportunity for players. So the preseason, if you're an XFL fan and you completely ignored the preseason, you should, because the guys that you might like could potentially play in the XFL or even the USFL. Something to keep an eye on there. So we'll get into that, plus everybody in chat. We'll hang out with them, answer your questions. We got phone calls, the whole gamut. Long show last week. It should be a lot shorter this week. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. XFL working with investment bank PJT Partners seeking investors. So according to a report by Sportico, the XFL is looking for new equity investors in the league. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Danny Garcia, and Jerry Cardale's Redbird Capital Partners owned the XFL. They purchased the property out of bankruptcy for $15 million plus $9.2 million in debts and payments in 2020. Now, equity investors purchase company shares with the expectation, of course, that they'll rise in value. The equity used in the sale of shares would help fund the league. Quote, part of the PJT's responsibilities with the XFL search is to ensure potential equity investors share the vision of the current ownership group on the development and commercialization of the XFL, according to a person familiar with the transaction. Now, is the league already losing money? Is this part of some kind of long-term plan? Now, remember, the USFL is working with Allen & Co. to help fund expansion in their league. So seeking new equity investors could be a similar move by the XFL. The difference, of course, though, is Redbird Capital holds $6 billion, but many of that stuff goes on to other projects. There's no question about that. Now that the XFL has announced the cities, the TV deal with Disney, and started selling season tickets, I already got mine. This could be time to start looking for more investors. The problem comes with too many cooks in the kitchen. Former XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck had noted that the only way for spring football to work was to have one sole person to answer for the league rather than a bunch of investors. That's why he kind of wasn't interested in the AAF. And he said that multiple times at multiple interviews. It should be noted, of course, that the partnership between Oliver Luck and Vincent Kennedy McMahon ended in a lawsuit. So that part didn't work out. But the theory is correct. You only want to have one person that's going to call the shots, and that not having a boardroom full of 20 people trying to make a decision, then progress slows considerably. Ask anybody who works in corporate America. Now, we'll keep an eye on this news. The USFL, working with Allen & Co., worried some fans, but really it was much to do about nothing. And I know this because I was at the USFL championship game and talked to people in and around the league about that. And that was the vibe that I got, that, hey, this is just kind of par for the course, something not, this is not an AAF kind of thing. So I'm assuming that this is the same thing with the XFL. It's not this kind of AAF, Tom Dundon, rescue us kind of situation. So but we have post-traumatic stress from spring football fans. So what can I tell you? They've been working with the USFL for a while. This move by the XFL could be the same. Now, XFL insider extraordinaire Mike Mitchell posted this later on in the day, that more details when it comes to this XFL thing that is nowhere out anywhere. It says XFL seeking investors to own up to 45% of the league. So, of course, first reported by Brendan Coffey and Scott Shushnick of Sportico that we just went over about the PJT partners. We went over all of that. The XFL, when we contacted the XFL, they had no comment on today's story. Now, he said XFL News Hub has learned some arrangement parameters and goals for the equity search. So the XFL is seeking investors to own up to 45% of the league. So the XFL is engaged with PJT partners to raise $125 million in equity funding. Remember, 3 years, $150 million for the USFL. A focused equity raise with PJT partners contacting 15 affiliated offices. Redbird Capital is preparing to fund 100% of the equity if needed. So remember, that is a crucial part. That if they don't get anybody, the league is fine because, quote, Redbird Capital is prepared to fund 100% of the equity if needed. So if they get some of it or not all of it, they're prepared to fund it. That's not a problem. So the idea that you think the XFL doesn't have any money, that sentence right there put me at ease when I read that. Although not specified for this endeavor, Redbird could, in theory, assist investors with capital in exchange for a residual interest. New investors could own up to 35 to 45% of the XFL. Sources indicate the league is not looking to sell ownership of its 8 teams. There have been early investors who expressed interest in the league's teams during discussion. We have heard that the XFL, just like the USFL, wants to take those teams and potentially have local ownership. The USFL is looking to do the same thing. Their plan is 5 to 7 years. We don't know what the XFL plan is, but for now, all those leagues will stay under the one umbrella with the XFL running all 8 teams. Makes sense. The XFL was purchased out of bankruptcy for $15 million. We know about the $9.2 million. The 2023 XFL season starts a week after the Super Bowl on Saturday, February 18th. 12-week season, 43 games as part of a 5-year broadcasting agreement with Disney and ESPN. All games will be broadcast in linear and digital format. Daniel Kaplan and Bill Shea of The Athletic reported that the XFL had substantial rights fees with Disney to air the games exclusively on ABC, ESPN, and FX, to put to rest anybody saying that had no clue of what they were talking about the deal. Several sources have indicated that the XFL's 5-year deal with Disney has ad splits, percentages not confirmed, with the network covering production and broadcast talent costs with escalators throughout the agreement to get all along with the initial rights fees. The league has announced its 8 team locations, the 3 teams playing in Texas. The XFL's arrangement with Rev Entertainment, a subsidiary of the Texas Rangers, will see Arlington, Texas serve as the league's in-season hub and headquarters for the next 3 years. The XFL has secured and finalized 7 stadium deals for its 8. The XFL teams will be training in Arlington before and during the season, but will fly out to the respective cities for games. Totally love that. I think that is the best plan. I wish the USFL would do that as well. What does this all mean for the XFL moving forward? Now, you can look at today's news from several angles, according to Mike Mitchell, positively and negatively. A red flag or business as usual. There's a great deal of mystery involved. Let's get into what we know. So Redbird Capital Partners holds $6 billion of assets under management, but them seeking funding is a reality of the space they are entering. And it speaks to their standard practices over the years of maximizing their investments through multiple partnerships. Redbird has several different sports entities under its umbrella. The firm has partnered ownership and interest in AC Milan, Toulouse FC, Fenway Sports Group, One Team, and the Yes Network, among others. The XFL, however, is arguably the riskiest property in Redbird's vast, successful, and diverse portfolio, After all, properties like the New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox, Liverpool, AC Milan, etc. are proven commodities with marginal risks, especially in contrast to owning and operating an upstart pro football league. Just ask MLFB how that went. And the AAF, just to name several. Over the years, many alternate pro football leagues have faltered because of being underfunded or individuals underestimating how much bleeding of finances is involved. Based on what he's heard, Mike Mitchell, I don't think that's the case here. Quite the opposite. For an example of the current reality in this space, the USFL has been seeking funding for up to $200 million since 2021. They enlisted Allen & Co. to help fund expansion in their league. The expansion in question is not added teams, it's added costs of moving current teams to their city, and therein lies the rub for the XFL. Their 8 teams will be playing in their cities, even though it's a partial hub. It will be a much more costly proposition than what the USFL had in 2022 by centralizing their league in Birmingham. Sources have indicated that Fox, who reportedly earmarked $150 million over 3 years for the USFL, spent over $70 million in 2023 on the league. I haven't heard that one before. And that's on the heels of operating a cost-controlling league. So you get the idea. Expanding into markets in 2023 will cost more because of travel, facilities, venue costs, etc. So Fox and the USFL spent $70 million in 2022 having everything in Birmingham. What do you think that's going to cost the XFL in 2023? That's his point. Several months ago, the XFL 3.0 was considering staging their entire 2023 season in Texas, following the same model that the USFL had in 2022, but the league opted to shift from the hub strategy to attempt to better connect with their cities, develop business relationships, and create more viable revenue streams, ticket sales, local sponsorship, merchandise, etc. And I think we learned from the USFL you have to play games in home cities because, for example, in Pittsburgh, no one was talking about. I was in Pittsburgh area. No one was talking about it. Right? That was during the championship. Now, granted, Pittsburgh was not any good. So selling any ownership percentage is a significant story. There have been talks since 2021 of the USFL selling off their teams for a franchise fee, but none of those desires have come to fruition yet, and it may take a while to accomplish that goal. While there are similarities between the USFL and XFL seeking funding, the XFL's Phase 1 is very different from the USFL's. XFL 3.0 will spend more money to get off the ground than the USFL did. Playing into the XFL's favor is that they already have venue agreements in place. The plane is already fueled up as it prepares to take off. Travel costs and benefits of flying out of Texas are a question of another time without a definitive answer. The real question in this story is the type of investors the XFL is seeking, especially considering that team ownership is off the table. And it's a matter of motivation for investors who commit capital to the league. Could Vince McMahon come back? Just throwing that out there. Vincent, he's not doing anything. Will buying a percentage of the XFL be served as a means to purchase company shares with the expectation that they'll rise in value over time before potentially selling off the interest? Or will investors seek significant decision-making power as part of their agreement? And that's the Oliver Luck part. That's where details are murky at the moment and can get tricky. The lack of transparency to the outside public can create doubt, something that has always existed for alternative pro football leagues, CMLFB in particular. Redbird Capital has already earmarked 3 years of funding for the XFL, which coincidentally aligns with their multi-year agreement with Arlington. The funding commitment is similar to what Fox has done for the USFL. Now, Jerry Cardale, co-owners Danny Garcia and Dwayne Johnson have worked on a business and marketing plan for 2 years. Redbird Capital is trying to cover all of its bases, par for the course for what they always do based on their history as an investment firm. However, no matter how much you strategize, plan, and control costs, there's no escaping the reality that owning and operating a pro football league is prohibitive. You must be willing to play the long game and take early losses to survive. And even then, despite all that, there are no guarantees that these entities will eventually thrive. As one respected industry source told me today when hearing about this story, quote, profits and league value is the long-term goal for the XFL, but you need funding to bring things up to scale past just launching, close quote. That sums up what is happening right now, but it won't stop people from declaring doomsday, because until the new iteration of the XFL and ownership proves itself, the jury will be out on them. Reaction. Let us know what you think in the comments. Mike Mitchell breaking it all down. The XFL seeking investors to own up to 45% of the league. There's now more questions than answers, and answers and questions. Reading, for me at least, reading this makes me feel better. Look, they had the funding locked in for the next 3 years. This is kind of what Redbird Capital does. The question is, who did they bring in? Do they want saying power, or is this basically it start and ends with the chairwoman, Danny Garcia, and they say, hey, you can buy into the XFL, but you can't, but Danny Garcia is the person at the top who makes all the calls in the end. So we would like to hear your opinion, but it doesn't matter what your opinion is, because it ends with Danny Garcia. We'll just have to find out. This could be the one thing to put out there, just kind of that it's out there right now. Maybe we get team names and logos coming up soon, and this kind of gets brushed under the table. Let's hope that we get some good, fun, exciting XFL news. But clearly, these guys are smart. They know what they're doing. This is not an AAF 2.0. This is not MLFB. We just have to kind of trust the process, and this is just par for the course. Fingers crossed. XFL 3.0 opens the draft door for XFL 2022 players. XFL 3.0 has several of its cities' coaching personnel returning from 2 years ago, but the olive branch for returning to the league has also extended for players from the XFL 2020 era. So the current XFL leadership has opened the door for the possibility of the league's players from 2 years ago returning by giving them an automatic entry into the league's draft pool in mid-October. A specific date will be set by the league and its media partner, Disney ESPN, soon. We are hearing that potentially ESPN would cover some of the draft, which would be awesome. So in theory, a former Battlehawks player like wide receiver DeMornay Pearson-L or punter Marquette King, totally want him back, who both played for the team in 2020, could presumably return to St. Louis again. That would be awesome. It would make for a fun story if some of the league's best players from 2 years ago returned. But man, that is 2 years ago. Think about that. However, some players who played in the XFL 2 years ago are gainfully employed by other leagues, while others have moved on to the next phase of their lives off the field. For example, DC Defenders running back Donnell Pumphrey, a record-breaking runner at San Diego State, in recent days joined his alma mater's coaching staff. 3 years is a long time in a football player's lifespan. You know what put an end to the XFL's 2020 season. In turn, for some players, it provided a bitter and abrupt ending to their careers. For some players in 2020, XFL 2020, primarily veterans, the league was their final hurrah playing pro football. But for many others, the XFL was a springboard that helped them extend their playing careers. Now, 134 former XFL players from 2020 are currently on other Pro Football League rosters. Let me repeat. 134 former XFL players from 2020 are currently on other Pro Football League rosters. 27 are on NFL teams, 33 on CFL rosters, 74 just finished a season playing in the USFL. Other former XFL players, like Reese Horn, are also playing in Europe for leagues like the European League of Football. The XFL 2020 players on CFL and USFL rosters under contract are seemingly off limits for XFL 3.0. However, there's a chance that some former XFL players in the NFL could make their way back to the league they played for 2 years ago. Now, here's the big kicker. NFL cuts. In a month's time, NFL teams will trim their rosters from 90 players, that's a lot, to 53. Remember, The Rock is 54. Each team will add 16 players to their practice squad, which is bigger than what it was before. So when the smoke clears, 21 players per NFL team will run out of real estate once active and practice squad rosters are completed before the regular season. That is 672 players who won't land on an NFL roster to start the season. Some of those players could be former XFL 2020 participants. So it's important to note that XFL team personnel directors and coaches are currently attending NFL camps, no doubt in the hopes of scouting players for the upcoming XFL draft and season. Many of them are first-year undrafted players that were scouted by the XFL's football brass already at the NFL Combine, College Pro Days, and the All-Star Collegiate Talent Showcases like the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, and many others. Vaughn Hutchins, who is the director of player personnel for the DC team, there's a picture of him out there at NFL training camps. It's also worth noting that there are returning coaches and player personnel people from the XFL in 2020, like Bob Stoops, Randy Mueller, June Jones, Jonathan Hayes, Joey Clickscales, Jim Herman, and others who could be looking to get some of their old players back playing for them again. Some of the league's best players drafted by the XFL in the fall of 2019 were on NFL teams. Repeat, some of the XFL's best players drafted by the XFL in the fall of 2019 were on NFL teams, grinding in training camps and playing preseason games that summer. That is why, if you're an XFL fan and a USFL fan or fan control football, this is your season to watch these guys on NFL preseason games. So people are like, I don't care about the preseason. Us all football nerds, we're all about that. While the XFL was planning for their 2020 season 3 summers ago, PJ Walker, Donald Parham, Storm Norton, Michael Dunn, Cam Phillips, Jordan Tamo, and so many others were on NFL rosters fighting to make teams. One of the most significant question marks surrounding the XFL 3.0 is where most of their players will come from. The answer seems pretty clear based on what transpired in the summer of 2019. The XFL has worked out over 1,300 players at their 6 showcases across the country. The league has potentially left the door open for another showcase that has one more for specialists this October, but a good portion of the 2023 XFL rosters will be comprised of players currently on NFL teams. Some of them could be familiar faces from 2020. But for now, and for this article, let's look back at some of the players from 2020 who are available that could be back on XFL teams and perhaps back playing in the same cities. So the XFL 2020 free agents, the automatic draft invitations have been sent out to XFL players from 2020. The question is how many of them will answer the call, and the ones that do, how many of them will be drafted. Some of the invites became public at this point simply because players from the 2.0 either openly expressed their desire to be back in the league or shared the announcement that they have accepted an invite into the draft. Talented wide receivers, Renegades 4.2 speedster Jeff Badette, defenders, wide receiver Rashad Ross hope to lace up again in the XFL. New York Guardians running back Tim Cook, who shared the backfield with another spring football league standard Darius Victor and Matthew Colburn, recently worked out for the league at the Arizona Showcase running a 4.5 in the 40 dash. Unlike 2019, XFL 3.0 has not publicly released the names of the players who worked out for them in their 6 showcases. However, sometimes the identity of a familiar face from 2020 can't be concealed. Former DC Defenders quarterback Cardale Jones participated in the showcase in Texas most recently. So a lot has changed since 2019. 3 years ago, Cardale Jones was a hot ticket item in the XFL, almost as hot as a ticket to see Sonic 2. Oh, Mike Mitchell bringing in there. If you don't know that story, you'll just have to join a Discord, ask a question. But there's a whole thing about Sonic 2. Or Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Several XFL, I'm not going to answer you. You're just going to have to research it. Several XFL teams had, just look at any XFL News Hub article about Cardale Jones, and it's in there. Several XFL teams had the 6'5" signal caller Jones at the top of their quarterback priority list. The former Ohio State standout, who once upon a time was projected as a first-round pick in the NFL draft after winning a national championship with the Buckeyes, was buried on the back end of NFL rosters to start his pro career. But the 4th-round pick of Buffalo Bills in 2016 had started to show some genuine progress a bit in preseason action with the Chargers from 2017 into 2019. However, it wasn't enough for him to break through and move up the depth chart. Jones eventually landed on the Seahawks practice squad in September 2019, but he was released later that month. The Cowboys offered him a practice squad position, but instead, with a chance to start and get real game reps, he signed with the XFL in October. Things didn't go according to plan in the XFL for Cardale. He started for current Houston Texans offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton in D.C., but the current QB guru, who has helped mold Davis Mills and Justin Herbert in successful NFL seasons, couldn't work his magic with Jones. Cardale got off to a promising start, but faltered, finished the shortened season with 4 touchdowns, 7 picks, while completing only 54% of his passes. It's doubtful that Jones ends up as a starter this time around, but he wants back in to get another shot. He posted this tweet: Dear Football, see you spring 2023. Sincerely, 12. We'll get to that post in a second. Several other notable players from 2020 are in the XFL 2022 draft pool. Among them, Devon Smith, remember him, all the things with the pizza, chicken salad thing in the USFL. Cameron Artis Payne, Nick Hawley, Jalen Tolliver, Nick Truesdale, Jordan Smallwood, Edmund Robinson, Josh Hawkins, Eric Dungy, quarterback, Justin Stockton, James Fulton Jr., Terrence Plummer, Jazz Ferguson, Gabe Wright, Jalen Collins. I mean, you got a lot of guys in there. Many players on the list above spent time on other pro leagues rosters since 2020. The likelihood is that some of them will be reunited with their former coaches in the XFL 2020 or the DPPs who drafted them in 2019. 528 players will be on XFL roster 2023 rosters when training camp starts in January in Arlington, Texas. Most of the league's rosters will come from current NFL rosters with some assistance from the NFL Alumni Academy. Don't forget about that. But the players who return to the XFL from 2020 will, in many respects, be the unsung heroes of the league because the road they have taken back has been the most challenging. So this is very cool to see some of the old faces back. And speaking of Cardale Jones, after that tweet was put out, teased his return. So we saw that. See you in the spring. The XFL, that's right, the XFL Twitter posted a little emoji with a little guy with a little light or a little eye thing. So when he teased about a return to football in the spring of 2023, conveniently enough, the XFL's official Twitter account replied to his post after posting that. So based on this, it appears Cardale will sure be part of the XFL when it returns in 2023. And oddly enough for Cardale, it'll be his first return to football, as well as he'll be making his return to professional football since he last played, of course, with the DC Defenders. Cardale himself looking fantastic shape in the XFL showcase and looked ready to go based on his Ohio State Pro Day. Now, whether he comes back to Reggie Barlow and DC, that remains to be seen. He did have some time in the CFL and then kind of didn't really make it for that long. Is the reason why and that was my speculation, that the reason why he signed with the Elks, but then really never even went up there was because that he got some kind of offer to do something with the XFL and asked to get out of his contract. Well, we'll see if this kind of happens. The other thing, too, is that, the CFL season ends in November. Could some of these CFL guys that are in the CFL make a return to the XFL as well? We're just going to have to find out. The draft for the XFL 3.0 era for the 2023 season is going to be so much fun. And aside from logos and team names, that day is going to be the most fun, especially if we get to see some OG 2.0 players come back for the 3.0 era.
Our hope, and really when it comes down to changing the way that coaches coach players, is that we just help them be a little bit more precise, and we actually honestly just help them communicate with a younger generation who grew up with numbers.
The whole idea here is that we're creating information that's linked to video, that you can see what they're doing, and then we can give you a number. That's nice. And then you can actually sit down with the player and talk about it from an actual technique.
We want to take all the great innovative things in the world and make them more useful for athletes and coaches. We are an athlete data company that is coach and athlete centric. And so everything we do is all about the athlete and the coach and trying to make their lives better through better measurement and better applied information.
The XFL launches the Huddle, a game fan engagement platform. So the XFL launched a new program to engage with fans. It's called the Huddle and can be found here. We'll take a look at that in a second. It looks to be similar to what the league did with their football advisory network. This is what it says on the website. Quote, the XFL is excited to build tomorrow's league with the voice of our fans. Join the Huddle, an exclusive fan network made up of people like you, like me, just like me, who want to be heard, connected, and share insight about the league and our 8 teams. As a member, you will receive exclusive benefits throughout the year, participate in surveys and polls and discussions specific to and on off-the-field topics, and will give insight on how we, the XFL, can deliver what our fans want. Space is limited. Sign up today to help shape tomorrow's league. Join the Huddle. So after you sign up, it asks you a series of questions about yourself, your sports, and viewing habits. It mentions both fan-controlled football and the USFL as well. This is part of what the co-create with fans that XFL owner and chairwoman Danny Garcia had talked about when they had the town hall. And this is just some stuff about building tomorrow's league, the voice, blah, 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 the Huddle. They ask questions, how many games, if you plan to watch college football, how many XFL games you plan to watch. So you fill all that out, you sign up, you verify your account, and you get a message saying that you'll receive a confirmation. And then you get access to the main site. It's thehuddle.xfl.com. And so far, there's really nothing on it of interest. I could show you what it looks like right now if I can. Let's see here. Nope. That it just basically there's really nothing on it. Just a picture of XFL shop and latest activities, but there's nothing on it. I will tell you this is that they actually I got a survey that was asking questions about the XFL and what I wanted to improve, what I liked from the 2.0, the 2020 season, what I didn't like. Why do I like to go to football games? I mean, it asked me a bunch of questions. So if you sign up, you'll get, and it'll also kind of tag you as like I'm a DC person. So that, those things will probably be geared towards me. So definitely something if you're a super fan to sign up and be part of. There's really nothing going on the site right now, except that I did get a survey last week, I would say a day or two later, asking a bunch of questions about the season coming up. And what I liked, what I didn't like, my viewing habits, that kind of thing. So they're building their database of data. Clearly they had it from the Football Advisory Network in the past. We'll see where this goes. But if you want to sign up for the Huddle, just head over to xfl.com and sign up, or it's thehuddle.xfl.com as well. And you can get there and sign up. WWE strength and conditioning coach Sean Hayes is leaving for the XFL. So he is leaving the wrestling business for the XFL. The NXT 2.0 superstar Zion Quinn broke the news via his Instagram post. He said, the OG of WWE NXT, best wishes on your next endeavor with XFL, brother. They've gained a beast of a trainer, an absolute legend of a bloke. Hayes, you are NXT. I'm a big fan of NXT. Pro Football News Hub. You see the pattern here. We just started covering the WWE once again. We were just covering exclusively AEW because I couldn't stand Vince McMahon, because NXT would have these guys and they were awesome, and then they'd move them up to the main roster and Vince would ruin them. But now that Vince is not around anymore in the WWE, I'm definitely interested in what the WWE product has. Maybe I'll watch it again. But I knew Sean Hayes from his days at NXT working with the wrestler, so now he is going to be part of the XFL. Hayes played linebacker at Harvard and was part of the Houston, Texas coaching staff before coming to the WWE in May of 2016. No official word from the XFL just yet. XFL and Ticketmaster announced new multi-year partnership in anticipation of the upcoming 2023 season. The XFL and Ticketmaster announced today, this past week, a new multi-year partnership, making Ticketmaster the official ticketing partner of the XFL. All 43 games of the XFL season, 40 regular season games, 2 playoffs, 1 championship across the league's 18 markets will be ticketed by Ticketmaster's monopoly. Did I just say that? Quote, we are thrilled to team up with XFL and continuing the momentum they are building heading into the start of the 2023 season, said Clay Lutter, Ticketmaster Executive Vice President and Co-Head of Sports. We are energized by the vision that the new ownership group has for the reimagined XFL and are excited to bring their vision to life with innovation and enhanced technology and monopoly. The XFL will embrace a mobile-first ticketing strategy, giving fans convenient and easy-to-use tools to purchase and manage their tickets. XFL fans will have access to Ticketmaster's industry-leading digital ticketing technology when buying both primary and reselling tickets. I would call BS on the resale tickets. I couldn't resell any of my concert tickets, by the way. Ticketmaster. This box is grayed out, bros. Fans can use their mobile device to easily manage verified tickets via downloaded to a digital wallet or the XFL mobile app powered by Ticketmaster. I repeat, or the XFL mobile app powered by Ticketmaster. So we won't be the only mobile app out there. Looks like the XFL and Ticketmaster will be doing something as well, which will be available later this year. Interesting. Additionally, fans can take the advantage of the virtual venue, a try before you buy experience that offers 3D stadium views, so fans can make educated seat selections. That's cool. Russ Brandon said, of course, we're pleased to renew our partnership with Ticketmaster, advanced capabilities, global reach. Interesting there. An industry leader with advanced capabilities and global reach. Didn't notice that the first time I read it. To deliver the scale required by the XFL. Global reach. Remember that. Collaboration and innovation are two key values of the XFL, and in working with Ticketmaster, we'll ensure a seamless ticketing experience that will allow our fans to enjoy the XFL's exciting and dynamic football experience. Of course, we know when the XFL will kick off, February 18th, 2023. You can get your XFL season tickets right now. It's $50 a seat, and I think it's $200 a seat for the season or something. That's what they did the last time, and it was fantastic. You couldn't beat the price. Had an awesome time. I cannot wait to go back and start that beer snake up again. DC, well, whatever we're going to be called. DC fans, we're ready to do that beer snake. We'll be there. XFL News Hub will be at all the stadiums, hanging out with fans and doing reports, the whole kind of deal. So stay tuned for that. But XFL and Ticketmaster announced their partnership. I expect more news from the XFL coming in the coming days and weeks as we build up to the 2023 season. We'll take a commercial break, then we'll be back with your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned. Bye-bye, friends. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, my friends, we are back. This is a problem for me. So I wear glasses when I'm at the computer. But if I did the show and you would always see me in glasses, you would think I'm a glasses person. But when I take my glasses off and I'm trying to read, all this stuff that, on the chats or whatever, it's like blurry. But I'm not going to do it. I can do it. But anyway, hey, thanks for being part of the show. We really appreciate that. Hey, we got some sponsors coming soon that I'm excited to announce next week. And also working on some mint. Did anybody use the word mint when you were growing up? We used to use mint growing up on Long Island. Some mint. I should try to, I've asked my kids, bring back mint. Like, you can be the one to bring back that trend. And they just looked at me and said, absolutely not. You're crazy, Dad. So, some mint guests coming up soon. But you know who's mint? Is our friends hanging out in the chat. Philip says, go Roughnecks, and says Mike Mitchell is the best. Yes, he is. Mark says, if PJ Walker doesn't hang on to an NFL team, I hope the XFL gets him. And that's the problem. I want to see him stay in the league. In the NFL, I think he will hang on at least for this season. And then when Matt Rule is out, I think PJ Walker will be out. They should have just given him a shot. Why are they getting, what's his name, the former Heisman guy to come back who, like, was sitting at home? Like, just let PJ play. Like, I don't understand. Jared said, Cardale Jones, I don't want to see again unless he's a backup. He was good at first and dropped like a rock in QB play. No Landry Jones, Brandon Silvers, for example, please. Let's see. Let's see what else here. Just like Paxton Lynch or Johnny Manziel. Sharman Jones, Philip says. That's not very nice. Though, you know, if he is a quarterback of DC, I will ask him if he saw Sonic 2, and he'd probably give me a dirty look. But, hey, the guy was a stand-up guy. My daughter met him, and he was really gracious and really nice. I mean, just a great guy. So, you know, if that part and then his play on the field, he would be a home run. Let's see. Maybe he's got his game together. But, you know, from what I heard from the DC staff was that they were going to go with Tyree Jackson as their cornerback. And he played in one game, and Tyree did not look that great. So, you know, who knows what was going on there with that. But we'll have to see. Jared says preseason tickets are always the cheapest. I've been to Broncos versus Packers, Broncos versus Cardinals, Broncos versus Rams. Good times. I think I know where Jared lives. Just as a guess. Rangers King 669, specifically Paul, who is no longer on that. What are you talking about? I don't know what that is. Philip says, do y'all think players would choose CFL over XFL or vice versa? That is a great question. And that is something that I brought up in one of those reports, which, by the way, 60 likes. Let's get this show up to 60 likes. Make sure you smash the like button. We're only at 14. Come on, guys. 60 likes is what we want. Help us out. Spread the word about XFL news here. I could see it would be because a lot of the CFL contracts are only a year or two. So Cam Phillips could technically, unless they sign, I don't know what their contract statuses are. And I think most people don't know what these CFL contract statuses are per se. But Cam Phillips could play a season with the Argos and then get drafted. I mean, it'd be interesting to see guys like Sean Oakman or Cam Phillips make a return to the XFL. But everybody is on a wait and see. They're waiting and see. Now, if the XFL is going into year 3, then I think some guys from the CFL would jump ship. Remember, the XFL is shorter, and the pay. But if you're not playing 17 weeks season, you're paying a 10-week season with two weekends of playoffs, and you're playing in the United States, and your season is done. That gives you an opportunity to join a football, an NFL roster. Where in the CFL, you basically have to wait till the CFL season is over to then get an NFL roster slot. And if one could argue, how many guys from the CFL last year are on NFL rosters versus guys that played in the USFL, for example? I think the USFL crushes it. But there's contracts and there's other things there, so who knows? Mr. Smith says, I think a few of the CFL players would choose to come back and play in the States. That's true. Chris says, I think there's other companies besides Amazon or Apple that would be interested in Football League. What makes them so special? Just because I am a media, I think the coffee companies wanted that. I don't know what he's talking about there. Jarrett says meant condition on comics or cards, for example. That is true. Taylor Cornelius is back up QB. Yeah, Taylor Cornelius played for the Elks, and I think he's played well. Let's see what else here. Let's get to Javier says, doesn't involve the XFL and the expansion returning of LA and New York. Plus, can we see Finn the dog? He is not around here. He is upstairs watching The Bachelor with my wife, daughter, and her fiance. I believe they're all watching The Bachelor, and not this show. And so he's up there watching with them. All right, let's get to some of your social media stuff. But I think, let's see here. We'll get to the Facebook stuff. But yeah, basically, I mean, when it comes to LA, they're not out of the question. LA and New York. This is just we're just trying to get past season 1, my friends. Just trying to get past season 1. Let's get to some of your social media stuff and phone calls as we wrap up the show. First, talking about Cardale Jones and XFL teasing his return. Van says, holy crap, you failed to mention his other attempts at pro football. The defenders can have him back. Scribbly soft, don't squeeze the Charmin. Oh, come on. Doug says, just name STL the Battlehawks. There's nothing to do with that, but okay. Damon says, why should we have to go to class if we come here to play football? We ain't come to play school. Classes are pointless. Apparently, Cardale must have said that at some point. Question of the week, who do you want to see return to the XFL in 2023? Let us know in the chat while you guys are in there. Derek says, Marquette King. Yes, Taylor Russolino, Battlehawks. I'm with you. Nate says, Eli Rogers, DC Defenders, or his mother passed, and he decided to play rather than attend the funeral, and he balled out. He had a lot to prove. Hope he's able to return to the league. Yeah, that would be cool. Thought and prayers. That's for Eli Rogers when it comes to that. Jared Hansen, Martez Carter, who was playing in the indoor football league for Massachusetts Pirates, ran 3 TDs into the end zone while doing flips for the LA Wildcats. Yeah, and then he didn't play like the next week he was hurt. Defenders got totally embarrassed in that game by 13 points. Yeah, I remember that. LA Wildcats blew them out 39-9. I think I missed an extra score at one point. But yeah, he would be a good one. Michael says Defenders, Dragons, Battlehawks. We're talking players. Other Michael who understands the question. He's got Nelson Spruce and Nick Holly. I like those guys as well. I'm with you there. About the XFL working with investment bank PJT Partners. Brendan says, this is a smart business move. They're trying to tackle the problem from the very beginning. When they purchased the league, they purchased those debts too. So getting investors early to help tackle those debts and provide a full season of football is very smart. I mean, that's the other thing you got to kind of weigh when it comes to this. Now that you've kind of laid out the plan, now is the time to see if anybody wants in. Now that you said, hey, we built this, it's already out there. This is the partnerships we have. We're basically going to announce team names here soon. I was thinking October. Mike tends to think August. This is the time to kind of start talking to people. And this could be, they just could have signed this, and it could take 6 months for them to build up a package to send to people. So this could be stuff that they're worried about for year 2 and not year 1. Like, we just don't know. James says, so sounds like their business model won't include teams having individual owners. Heard the idea was floated down the line. If anything, that's true. There you go with that part. On to last week's show on the YouTube. Or let's do Instagram. On the Insta, who do you want to see return to the XFL? Russell, the Truth Seeker. Jordan Tamu back with the Battlehawks. I think he has a 2-year contract with the USFL. I mean, think of a guy like Brian Scott in the XFL. I mean, this is going to be good. This is going to be interesting. Fess Salazine says PJ Walker, and Natty 2D says Silvers, even though people didn't like it. I would rather have BJ Daniels than Brandon Silvers back. But it was going to be off the charts for this draft. Or player pool, I would love if they throw out some names. And Jordan Tamu played, I mean, he was probably one of the best fantasy quarterbacks in the USFL. But he didn't like blow it up, like just tear up the league, which is kind of what we thought he would do. But man, I'm telling you, this draft is going to be so interesting to be watching the draft and getting the reaction. Like, oh, that guy played in the USFL. Oh, that guy played in the CFL, or oh, he's coming back. I mean, that's just going to be a blast. It's going to be a blast covering the XFL draft for sure. We'll cover it online. Whatever the ESPN doesn't do, we will be doing. There's no doubt about that. On to the YouTube. Let's see here. We'll start at the bottom. Keith says, I'd love to see the Guardians name and logo be used for the DC team. No. The Washington Guardians sounds good to me, and the logo is killer. I think they let go the Guardians name, by the way. Also, I'd like to see the Roughnecks name dropped. Houston doesn't always have to choose names about energy or space. They're a diverse city with more than the space industry or energy. How about Houston Diablos? What about the Houston Teslas? Are they out there? D-Tom America. What I would like to see the names of the XFL teams based on what The Rock wants. DC Code Talkers. A code talker is a name given to American Indians who use their tribal language to send secret communications on the battlefield. Interesting. I don't think fans would be down with that. Also, if you think about it, The Rock wants to reach out to everyone. A lot of people through the XFL disrespectful. Oh, I see what you're saying. So he's trying to kind of bring it back where, before the original, the Washington Redskins was disrespectful. And so maybe bringing it to some Indian thing. I get what you're talking there. St. Louis Battlehawks, don't change. Keep everything. Las Vegas Outlaws, that would be cool. San Antonio Defenders, no. That's my team. Yeah, bro, have you seen all the merch I bought? No, don't change it. Seattle Samurai, not really sure about that. Some people might even question. Well, I don't really know. Arlington Renegades, he's got Orlando Dragons, Houston Roughnecks. You got the deal there. James says, honestly, I feel hurt. Let's see here. We'll give him a like. That was a good one. James says, honestly, I feel so hurt for these Major League Football players hoping they get an opportunity or else and the league gets hit with multiple violations from the SEC. That's the part that I think is coming. Their PR person quit also. So that's, yeah. I always thought it was, but to bring them all out there like that, and he wasn't even there. Frank Murtha is a piece of, hey, goes around, comes around, brah, I guess. But hey, it's not my ultimate judge. I'm not the ultimate judge of people's fate. So we'll leave it at that. Or worse, I never want to see a league fail mainly for the players' sake. They really did them dirty, take them out with no notice. If you knew they weren't going to be able to cover hotel expenses, why even try to start the league? This seems so shady and just plain wrong. Agreed. So I hope for all the players, as I said, but honestly, there's another side of me that kind of expected this whole thing. Seemed weird. From the beginning, they say now they're going to restart in a few weeks. That is complete crap. They haven't even paid for the website. The guy who ran their website kept it up, and he was like, they haven't paid for it. So finally it's taken down. So, yeah, they're done. Basically, it was all, I'm going to pay you later stuff. I would never trust anything that comes from the league ever again. Just wait another more sustainable football league like the XFL, USFL to get going because they'll actually put cleats in the grass. I am so surprised they even got players to go out there for that. I never would have. I mean, even, I would have been like, nah. I would take my chances on an XFL player showcase than do that. Joe says, do not believe the XFL got any money. It would be ridiculous for them to receive a rights fee and not announce it, as this would propel the league into a higher level with both sponsors and fans like, prove me wrong. Joe says, prove me wrong. The XFL hasn't announced anything. And I think whatever money deal it was, it's not. Mike Mitchell is going to have more on this story when it comes to the TV deal. It's not like they got $50 million a season. I think it's something with like escalators and there's other stuff involved where it's not just kind of a flat fee. But they did receive rights fees. But yeah, they have to keep it. Have you met Joseph? Have you met the XFL? Everything is under NDA and close to the vest. Like, we don't get anything. I'm surprised Mike Mitchell gets the stuff that he does. So, yeah. On to the Twitter. Then we'll get to our other stuff. Richard O. for Real, legendary caller. We should have like an all XFL week in review team. Richard would be on that team. We'll pick like the best people, like 8 people on our team or something like that, Hall of Famers or so. I don't know. We do something fun like that. Says Josh Johnson, please don't bring back Cardale Jones. I would love to see Josh Johnson back, but I think he's a lock with the NFL and he's not going anywhere. He'll stay on that team at least for a season, and I think he's getting up there in years. But hey, Josh Johnson coming back, couple of years from now as a coach, would love it. I think he was going to have a run with MVPJ for MVP, and it would have been so fantastic to see them guys play in the playoffs. At Wedge 77, would love to see MVPJ Walker return to Houston and pick up where he left off. Would he go to Seattle? Jenna checking in. Tigre Scales. That's a good pick there as far as somebody coming back into the league. All right, let's take our phone call.
Hey, Mark, I wouldn't mind seeing Brandon Silvers, Davion Smith, or Flynn Nagel come back to the XFL, especially a guy like Silvers when there was some quarterback play lacking in the USFL. It would be great to see him kind of stabilize with a familiar face. Obviously, we all know what happened with Davion Smith. Don't even want to acknowledge the elephant in the room with his lackluster head coach, Kirby Wilson, and obviously Flynn Nagel kind of fell off the face of the earth. Wouldn't mind seeing all three of those guys back. Thanks.
Thanks for the phone call. Brandon Silvers, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no to Silvers, but I'm going to say yes to the other ones, Nagel and Smith. Definitely Smith. I would love to see Smith come back and just tear up the XFL and be like, you got to play that up. You got to play that up. I think that would be fantastic. But I appreciate the phone call. Let's get to an email. What do we got here? Where's my little? Oh, here we go. All right. Terry sent this one in. Mark, got a question for you. With the XFL quarterback assignments coming around in September, well, we hope, what type of player would be possibly available? Here are my thoughts. I've broken it down into 3 tiers. First tier, young mobile QBs that were overlooked by the NFL. Okay. Players like 2X HBCU Player of the Year, Aquel Glass, Alcorn State's Felix Harper, Louisiana's Levi Lewis, and former Heisman hopeful Derek King. There are plenty more examples of this tier. Just name those ones off the top of my head. And you definitely want mobile QBs with the lack of quality offensive linemen available. That is a great point. Second tier, NFL backups that might not make the final roster. Mason Rudolph, Pittsburgh. Jarrett Guantanamo, Arizona. Anthony Brown or Tyler Huntley, Baltimore. I think Tyler Huntley is going to stay in Baltimore. PJ Walker, Carolina, and the list goes on and on. Third tier, this is definitely the trickiest one to consider. Former NFL starters that could want another chance but have to prove they still have it. Number 1 on my list would be Cam Newton. Only 33, but a lot of front office personnel feel like he's washed up as an NFL QB. That would be insane. That would be insane. He definitely would be the face of the league. And you're right, he's only 33. He said maybe Blake Bortles wants to prove he wasn't a complete draft bust. We all know Josh Rosen will be available once the Cleveland roster gets worked out. Just wanted to bounce this off of someone that enjoys alternative football as much as I do. Have a great day, Terry. Checking in, Terry. Great. Got a lot of great names out there. We are going to have some crazy lists when it comes to the our guys are chomping at the bit to write some stuff up on XFL News Hub, and you give definitely some great names to consider there. And I would love to hear other people's names to start throwing out there, guys. But yeah, man, to have like an HBCU kind of player come in to the XFL and just tear it up would be awesome. Would be awesome, and be like, why didn't these guys get an NFL shot? But we'll just have to, we'll have to see. It's exciting times. I mean, once we hit November, just basically like after like Halloween, it is on. It is basically on. Like we're cranking up, draft and training camps and like everything, and then building up to the season. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, final emailer. Go back to the Homer screen. Mark, XFL News Hub rocks, or is XFL News Hub mint? I just threw that in there. I joined the Huddle. I think it's a great idea. I hope the Huddle is here to stay. I'm not a huge fan of the NFL, so I'm really hoping the XFL 3.0 model works. Don't know if having too much NFL influence will be a good thing in St. Louis, which has been mentioned in the St. Louis media. I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to at least voice my opinion directly to the XFL. All the best, Jim. South St. Louis City, Battlehawk fan Jim checking in. Thanks for the message, Jim. God bless to both Terry and Jim for checking in, and our phone caller as well. Always love to hear from you guys out there. Check out the Huddle. Get involved. That's what you want to be. You know, we're all at the ground floor here with these USFL, XFL, and these leagues need us to be the people that kind of spread the word, cover the leagues, talk about the leagues, get fans interested and excited about the leagues, not tear down the leagues. I mean, that's kind of a typical sports garbage where it's like, you know, and you know me, I've complained about the Fox Sports and ESPN's crappy. I love Pat McAfee. I like his show a lot. The guys, Matt Nagashima was a big fan of Pat McAfee and kept bringing him up, and I started watching it recently, and I'm like, that's the kind of style. That's what works. And, you know, it's just fun. He's just having fun. And it's not like argument and all that other garbage to piss you off. Sports, at the end of the day, my friends, and I tell you this all the time, sports is all about having fun. So make sure you smash that like button. We appreciate if you do that as well. And that's it for this week's show, my friends. Wrapping things up. Ben, thanks for everybody on the chat room. Chris checking in. Glad Josh Johnson's in the NFL. Go Broncos. He's with Russell Wilson now. Brendan Silvers was lacking in 2020. Yeah, I didn't think he was good. Chris says, scam Newton. No, that's not nice. Philip says, we want to see the likes of Manziel. Now, Manziel did nothing in fan control football. Did nothing. Colin Kaepernick is the guy out there. Chad Kelly, but he's in with the Argos. I don't think he's played much. And Manziel did nothing in the fan control football. Like, he barely played. He probably just showed up drunk. I don't know that for certain, but I'm just saying. Jared said, Huddle equals new version of the XFL's Fan Advisory Network. I can't believe I remember that. Good for you. And a great show, Mark. All right, thank you. Hallmark Channel wants a piece of the pie, too. Chris, yes. I'm always a fan of the Hallmark Channel. Always watch that stuff with my mom. Hey, smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody coming on this program. Good show this week. Tons of great content from Mike Mitchell. As always, remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record an MP3 on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show, or leave a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3 there. All right, my friends, that's it for me, folks. God bless. Hopefully we get some logo. We'll get some more news, but this news about the investor things is really interesting. After reading Mike Mitchell's thing, I feel more at ease. Still smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. We only have 19 likes. We got to get to 60. So let's get to that 60. That will make me feel even better, and it will help you feel better as well. All right, my friends, that's it for me, folks. God bless. As always, God is good, and I will see you all later.